Four arrow keys control the spacecraft on the canvas. Arrow up and arrow down accelerate or slow down the ship, respectively. Left and right arrows rotate it. Mouse click shows or hides the sign frame around. Space key stops the ship on its track. The sun in the left top corner is the background image performed by a radial gradient. Let's start from the body element. Only three elements here. The container is the parent for canvas and image elements. It will occupy the whole viewport. Also, it will be a background with a radial gradient styled to resemble the sun. The image of the ship is in PNG format. That is essential, because transparency is a must. It enables see-through the empty part of the rectangular picture and shows only the ship itself. The image element has an inline style display none. No need to show it. It is just a reference for the canvas drawing method draw image. The canvas element has no size. The script will set it width and height. Internal style. Nothing special here, except maybe a radial gradient as the background image for the container. It makes all this alive. Now to the JavaScript. Global variable sections. The pressed keys array will hold pressed keys. The problem is that when a key is pressed, event fire repeatedly. But we do not need multiple array elements with the same value. So, in the key down event will be some logic implemented to push the pressed key only once. The ship object properties and values will describe the ship's position, rotation angle, and one boolean flag variable will toggle the sign frame. Events. When the key is pressed and held, the key down event fires not once but goes on firing until the key is released. That poses a problem, because in the pressed keys array we need only one string element representing a pressed key, not a bunch of the same elements like arrow left, arrow left, arrow left, and so on. That is for before pushing the pressed key in the array, check is performed if there is already such a key in the array. The key is pushed in the array only if there is no such key already present. The key up event must remove the respective key from the pressed keys array. The array splice method does this job. The click event has nothing to do with the rotation of movement logic. It is here to toggle the frame around the ship's image. This frame proves that the rotation center is the image center, as it should be. Logic section. Here are two functions, animation and update ship. Let's start with the animation function. The function name animation is an arbitrary name. It can be any. What makes it a real animation is the method requestAnimationFrame, with the function animation passed as a callback function. The browser will keep on calling this callback function with the frequency of the monitor refresh rate. By the way, requestAnimationFrame method must be placed within the animation function for all this to work. Inside this animation loop is code that will be executed 100 times per second if, for example, your monitor refresh rate is 100 Hz. What is inside this loop? Firstly, we erase the previous frame. It is still on the canvas. When we call the updateShip function, this function will check the arrow keys and update the ship's position and rotation for this frame. Line 83. Here comes the logic on how to draw on a canvas image that is rotated. The concept is to save the current state of the canvas, reposition the canvas point 0, 0 to the ship coordinates, rotate ship context, the drawing context. Draw the ship, clipping the image from image ship element and drawing it on the canvas. If statement checks if there is a need to draw a sign frame around the ship. And last thing that needs to be done is to restore the canvas state to what it was before the save method. Animation for one frame is done. Function update ship. We define 3 constants. Changing them will affect how fast the ship will move. Now we must check the pressed keys array to know which keys are pressed and move and rotate the ship accordingly. Traditionally this is done by the switch statement, but there is a second, more elegant option, object literal. I will use the second option. If comments will not be enough to explain how it performs the switch logic, then there is no other option than to Google something like JavaScript object literal as switch. The next point is sine and cos math functions. If there is a need to implement such a style of movement as here, there is no way around them. Sine and cos are used to convert from the polar coordinate system to Cartesian. That is needed because the ship moves in the direction defined by the rotation angle and some velocity. That is a polar coordinate system. But canvas methods needs x and y coordinates. That is a Cartesian coordinate system. These 2 lines of code update ship object properties x and y. The last 2 lines wrap the space in such a way that when the ship crosses the border, it appears on the opposite side. If I miss something in my speech, and I surely did, there are comments and almighty Google, of course. Links to the file location and ship.png image file are in the description. Now I will scroll the whole file. That's all for now. Have a nice one.